On the previous video, we looked at how you could set up a table to collect your data out in the field on Excel, looking at the gap between either side of a groin. And we looked at the Google map, which was here. I'll just put some pinpoints onto a Google map. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then we set up this particular table here so that you could collect data out in the field, and then some basic formula. Okay. The other thing you could do with this is to get the latitude and the longitude of the places, and then you can graph them. So I'll just show you how to do that. So on Google Maps, if you're logged in into this area and click into maps, you can create your own map. Okay, this is one I've done previously, and once you're in there, you can add markers. So I could add those down the beach. Okay, and then the other great thing about that is each marker I've set up where I want to collect data. I can take a print screen of that for the examiner or the reader of your coursework, and then it gives you the latitude and the longitude. So I'm just going to collect. I'll just show you. I'll just copy that. Okay, and I'm going to pop it across here. This is just to show you how to do it. I've already done most of them. So I've got sample point 1 there, and then we've got a sample point 2, and I'll copy and paste that across. And then sample point 3. So we've got that latitude and longitude there as well. Okay. So we've got the data, we've got latitude and longitude, but it needs splitting up. So I'm just going to select those, and if you go up to data, and then you've got this tool here called text to columns. So we'll click on that. I do want to delimit the data to separate the data out using a comma in this case. So I'm going to click on next. Then I've got the comma there, and what it's done is it's split the latitude and the longitude up. And then I'm just going to finish. So I've now got the latitude and the longitude for that data. Cut that across and put it with the others. Okay, so I've got my latitudes and longitudes. And what I can also do is copy the gap data that I had. So I can just go equals, and that was my first data point north of the groin, and press enter, and it'll just drag that data down for me, and I'll drag the others down to the bottom there as well. Okay, so what I've now got is some latitude and longitude data with the gaps of the between the top of the groin and the sand right the way down. Now we've set that up. I can select it. I'll select all of that data in a little table. We've got to insert, and then we'll click on 3D maps. Okay, and there we go. We've got latitude, longitude. So it's found our places. So I can just zoom in and check that that's in the right place. I'll pop on the theme as a satellite image so I can see the groins and things as well. Okay, and then what we can do is on height, I'm going to put the gap between the top of the groin and the sand, because that's what I want to show. And then in layer options, the height's far too big, so I'm just going to drop that down, and I'm also going to drop down the thickness. Okay, so what that's done is plotted the height or the gap either side of the groins on both of those. So you could leave it as a bar graph. The other thing you could do is change it to a heat map and reduce the radius of influence. So you can see there which side has the biggest gap, and where the gap's at its greatest either side of those groins. So you can map your data. So that's quite powerful. The other thing you could do is graph your data. Okay, so typo there. Right, I'm gonna transform this data a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this across. Okay, and I'm going to transform the data. So I'm going to put the equals. So I've still got the distance down the beach. I'm going to try and show a negative value. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press equals, And all I'm going to do is multiply each cell by -1, just to turn it into a negative value. So when I drag that down, you'll see that the numbers here have all just been turned into negative values. And I'm going to do that for all of the other data. And then what we can do is pop in a line graph. So I select the data that I want to graph, click on line graph. Okay, I'll just get rid of that one there. That's the distance down the beach. And what you can see, we've got a line now. So the 0 line represents the top of the groin, and then the two other lines represent whether it's updrift, so that's the areas trapping sediment, or the green line downdrift. That's the areas that would potentially be starved of sediment by a groin. So you can get a nice visual representation of that particular gap. We can also, if we right click and click on select data, we can edit the x-axis labels. So what I actually want are these distances down the beach. So I'll click OK, and now I can say I've got distance down the beach and the gap between the top of the groin and the sand. I can click on plus, and I can put in axis titles and things like that as well. Okay, so there's two different ways we can present the data. The last thing you might consider doing is a dispersion graph. Okay, so again, I'm just going to press equals and copy that data across. So I just want the stuff north of the groin, on that most northerly groin. And then I can copy that formula down. So just copy the data. And then if we use the scatter graphing tool, we can use that to produce a dispersion graph. So I've just used 1 as north of the groin and 2 as south of the groin. If we select that data and go to insert and click on scatter graph, what it's done is produced a dispersion graph of our points. Okay, so 1 was north of the groin and 2 was south of the groin, and we could look at that to look at the spread of data. So hopefully those videos have been useful in showing you how to set up tables and then use Excel to analyze your information.